we already ready? You know what? Maybe we are. Give me 1 second here. Are we going to cut the intro short? I think we will. Let's see. Richard, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
How's it going,
How are you
man?
doing?
I'm doing
Well,
great.
I apologize. I'm a little disheveled. I thought you just wanted to talk, but apparently we're doing a show right now.
Yeah. Well,
Why not? This is how we talk.
This is usually how we talk, to be honest.
True. That is true. We've never not. Yeah.
We really, well, I think maybe we did talk off air one time, maybe once or twice, but usually we talk on air. So yeah, that's what I thought we were doing. Are you cool?
I'm cool for it.
You're cool with that? Okay.
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
down for it.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah. Matter of fact, you came in early. I cut the intros. Everything is good. You're here.
Good.
First off, welcome back to the show. It's been quite some time since you've been on the Killstream, and it's good to have you back. You're one of the most prolific guests in Killstream history, actually. I would say probably 30, 40 appearances, quite a few. Let's just put it that way. Going back all the way to 2018.
2018. Oh, right.
Yeah. You thought it was even further back than that. Yeah.
I thought it might have been 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, we may have talked in 2016, but I don't think you were on the Killstream. I think it was on a different stream. But yeah, you're one of the most prolific guests, Killstream Hall of Famer. Safe to say.
Wow. Well,
yes.
And congratulations on your prolific weight loss.
Thank you. Oh yeah,
really
you can see it, huh? Yeah, I lost. 100
I've seen pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. I lost 100 pounds. So hopefully I'll live longer. We'll see. I need to put down the cigarettes. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but
being obese is worse than cigarettes. I've actually heard.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
People don't understand how bad it is.
Like it's.
Am I getting an echo in your end?
You shouldn't be, but I'll look at the mix minus just to make sure.
Okay.
But you shouldn't be getting an echo. But if you are, then I apologize. Give me a second. Let's see.
Let me just try this. ABC. Yeah, I hear an echo there.
That's strange.
Let me check on. This is connected to my AirPods, so I don't think there should be a.
Okay, give me a second.
I just hear this light echo back there.
There could be. Let's see. Duo main. I could switch to duo chat. Does that help any, or is there still an echo?
ABCD. That sounds a lot better.
That sounds a lot better.
Much better. I think it's gone. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I just switched the audio sources. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But welcome back to the show. First off, it's been a while since you've been here. So introduce yourself to the audience for those who don't know who you are, which I'm sure very few.
Well, yeah, it's Richard Spencer. We go. Notorious from the alt-right days. You might remember Hailgate or the Charlottesville rally and all these wonderful things. And now a confirmed, gay fed Satanist, and according to most of your listeners, in fact. I do a thing called Alexandria on Substack, and so I do a lot of content there. It's most of it's paywalled. Much of it's not. That's where you can hear me talk about things for hours every week. But I try to do as many, pickup shows as I can. And I'm just a guy, living in Montana.
Just a guy. Might remember some greatest hits, such as the All Right, Hailgate, Charlottesville. Yeah, don't play any of the classics.
We caused
today.
A bit of a stir. Yeah.
All right, now, what did you think of the RNC last night?
I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, look, as many people pointed out, I kind of liked the Hulkster thing. Like, I was not a huge wrestling fan. I did like wrestling when I was like 9 or something, but I kind of liked the Hulkster thing. It was fun.
It was great.
But this combination of Dana White in the UFC, the Hulkster, Kid Rock, who I think his music is total crap in my opinion. It was resembling Idiocracy on some level. Like, President Mountain Dew Camacho firing a gun in the air, saying, we got this guy. Not sure. He's gonna save America. Yeah. Like it felt like that. We were verging on a combination of 80s nostalgia, which is interesting. 80s is almost like the last time America was cool and felt good about itself and moving towards the future, etc. 80s nostalgia and just kind of dumbass jackass culture plus Trump. And that was something, I have to say. Now, in terms of Trump's speech, to give him some credit here, I felt the first 15 minutes he was in a different zone emotionally. I don't think I'd ever seen him be in a place emotionally where he was almost, what is the right word? Humble, grateful, appreciative, kind of poignant, almost remarkable. I don't think I've ever seen that from Trump, where he's talking about the event, the assassination.
Right.
And he said this curious phrase of, I shouldn't even be here, which I don't even know. I mean, I think you can read into that even in a lot of different ways. Like psychologically, is he maybe telling us something? I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but I found that really remarkable that he said that. And then everyone from the crowd said, no, you should. Yes, you should. Or yes, you should. After that, he went into what is a stump speech from these rallies. And I've never listened to a full rally speech. I'll see them, getting broadcast on X or YouTube or whatever. I never listened to one, and I guess I now have. But he returned to these old favorites like a good stand-up comedian. Like he mentioned Hannibal Lecter and Silence of the Lambs.
He does that all the time, yeah.
Which is kind of funny, but there's also why. There's the curious statements about Bukele, which I thought were actually fairly interesting, because I've actually had this conspiracy theory myself, which is, are you putting people in jail or are you actually creating an army? It's kind of both, So anyway, I don't know what to make of that exactly. But the rest of it was just bluster and greatest hits. Isn't it great that we're friends with Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin? It's better to be friends than to be tossing nukes around, and I'm the tough guy who can do that kind of stuff. And he said at one point, we need more immigrants. They have to come here legally. It was just this rehashed greatest hits album that I felt fell flat. And it wasn't a dramatic departure. And when he just rehashes his stump speech from these rallies after getting assassinated, you do ask yourself, like, have you grown? Like, is there something new about you? Have we crossed the Rubicon? Are we at a new point? And when he just gives the stump speech that we've heard all the time, the answer is no. And a lot of the stuff, I mean, look, he's going to be pro-Israel. I actually think he's going to be more pro-Ukraine and pro-NATO than I think most people imagine. We're back in like 2018 Trump, where he just wants to be president again and wants to rerun this thing. And the kind of amazing potentiality of 2016. I mean, I look back on 2016 with some, regret, heartache, skepticism, criticism, et cetera, et cetera. But there was something about that moment where I was in the arena in Cleveland when he gave his talk then, and there was just this excitement. Anything was possible. The world is before us. We've rethought everything. And when I see him just rehash something that could have, a speech that could have been given in 2018, that could have been given before his assassination, that could have been, I just have a hard time taking it seriously. And I do think he became a standard Republican. And he's the conservative movement of the Republican Party is like the Borg from Star Trek, where it has an ability to absorb all of these different energies. It can absorb populism. It can absorb a certain type of racism. It can absorb, NRX stuff that we've seen. It can absorb the alt-right. It can assimilate all of these things and then put it through a meat grinder and spit out bad ground beef that is conservatism. I mean, I think it's a remarkable thing that I underestimated. But that's what I think Trump is. I don't really see the point. I'm not excited about voting. I'm not voting for Trump. And I don't know why anyone who's serious about these things would be excited. There's got to be some there. You can't just tell me trust the plan or it's going to be different this time. He's got new people or better people. He's got loyalists. Well, he's denounced Project 2025. I don't know. Is he actually going to enact 2025? I don't know. But you've got to show me some sort of evidence that he's a revolutionary figure. My sense is that he wants to be president again. All of these sad sack Republicans basically want him as their vicarious libido, basically this tough guy, who's going to face down Hamas and, all that. Like they want this tough guy in charge who's their way of their libido outside of their body. That it's like conservatives are watching porn. They're watching someone else have sex with someone. I'm a dork and some conservative activist loser, but then Trump, he's gonna go out there and just, no foreign aid for you, and I'm gonna face down little Kim Jong-un or what. It's just pathetic. But that's all it is. You've got to demonstrate to me that there's something to Trump beyond this crap. And I don't have any evidence for it. The guy has a lot of fighting spirit. I mean, it was incredible when he stood up after the assassination attempt. But I've got to see something for me to get mildly excited. I'm not doing it again. So there it is.
Now, I see Ep sent in a super chat. He says he needs to bring back Stephen Miller for speech writing, is what he said there.
Yeah. Well, the speech, there was some poetic lines in there about, he was reviving all these one-liners of America's the greatest. We crossed the Delaware, we explored a new continent, and then we went to a moon. If we're together as one people, nothing can stop us. That type of cloudy bullshit, basically, just empty rhetoric. He did that. I assume Stephen Miller wrote those lines 5 years ago. Never. But yeah, there's no speechwriter. It's just Trump up there doing a stump speech. But who's influencing him? No one.
So I love like you. I love the first part. The second part, well, more like this. The first third, I guess, I loved. The second, the other 2/3 were well, I've heard all this before because, we do a show every day, and so I've heard many Trump stump speeches. So I've heard a lot of that. Now, maybe his thinking was, this is a bigger audience, right? The nation's going to be seeing this, and maybe, they haven't seen some of the rally speeches, and he wanted to reiterate some of that. I thought, obviously, kind of a historic. He was almost killed, a very short time ago, this past weekend, right? And so from that standpoint, it was kind of an historic speech, right?
Well, okay. This is one thing I've learned by studying some contemporary psychology, but a psychopath is extremely low in neuroticism, remarkably low. So any regular person would, after being shot at, would be paranoid and maybe find God or question everything or want to go to Yosemite, walk around in the wilderness for a little while or something. normal people would experience an extreme situation like that and kind of be changed by it. But I do think that Trump is, in all likelihood, a psychopathic narcissist. And so he has no neuroticism, like nothing affects him. He has no fear in a way, for better and for worse. Maybe psychopaths are good at being leaders in this sense. But I don't, like, granted, in the first third, he expressed a sort of humility and self-doubt even, and maybe and great appreciation that I had not seen from him. But that was it. Like, that moment passed and we're just back towards, pathological narcissist Trump talking about how big his dick is, basically, like facing down other world leaders and making us proud or what. It just, at some point, there's just no there. And I just don't care. I guess maybe perhaps I'm jaded at this point about politics in general. I just don't care. I've heard all this stuff from Trump. He's not going to cure cancer. I mean, guys, like, I'm just going to tell you, he's not going to cure cancer. And
well, didn't Biden say that too, that he was going to cure?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, to be fair, he probably did. Yeah, you're right. But you all know Biden's not going to cure cancer either, right? The point is that Trump is not going to cure cancer. And, maybe they'll, like, the border, I will grant everyone it's a bit of a mess. I mean, they had a chance to do a border bill that they rejected, of course, but will Trump be better, have a different person in Department of Homeland Security? Sure. I'll grant you that, but, like, that's really not enough. Like, America does need a transformative leader, and what we have are these geriatric guys talking about their golf games. It's just not very inspiring.
Now, okay, we'll talk more about Trump and the RNC later, but what about what's going on with the DNC and Biden? I think they're going to push him out, honestly. I don't see how he stays in at this point. Pretty much everybody's turned their back on him, and Obama's staying silent. All his aides are out there saying he needs to step down, though, mysteriously. Pelosi staying silent in public, but Schiff's turning against him in public. That's her top
and
ally.
Schiff is Pelosi's man. So
yeah.
Yes, and they're leaking stuff about how they met with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can only rely on Biden's own arrogance and just refusing to leave. But I mean, I guess I would just ask the question to these people, and asking this question leads me down a path where I and a little bit of a conspiratorial path to some degree. But, like, it's not just, was Biden just totally embarrassing on that debate night against Trump? No doubt. Everyone saw it. There were very few decent moments. There were tons of bad moments. The guy, if you just even see, like, images of him 4 years ago, or certainly image of him in 2016, I mean, it's
totally different.
He's basically the Biden of yore, and now we just have someone who's falling off the cliff. I get it, but you're giving up an incumbent advantage by getting rid of him. There is a built-in incumbent advantage to any political race. Like, what is it, 80 to 90%? They teach you that
in basic poli-sci, by the way. Yeah, that's like the one. Yeah.
Every year in Congress, like, most of the races, you don't even need to poll. Like, you just, like, check them off the board, put it on the board, so you're going to give that up for Kamala. Like, don't you think Kamala is less attractive than Biden to most voters? Like, you're just jumping from the frying pan into the fire. Like, Joe Biden demented is probably better than changing horses this late and the horse jumping on the horse of Kamala Harris. So is there some fresh voice that would be able to swing this and would be actually new and visionary or something? I don't know.
The problem is you can't skip her though, right? Like, I mean, she's the sitting vice president. She's black, allegedly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like and a woman, right?
Yeah.
And so there's really no way to skip her. My theory is, first off, if he's not fit to run for president, he's not fit to be president, by that same theory, right?
Bro, I sent $5. The fake idea of racism has caused so much damage to this country.
And I'll read this super chat.
From allowing blacks to commit crime.
I'll read this too. Hold on a sec. But
the RNC response is to say we're not racist. What would your rhetoric be on this issue?
And I'll read that out to him in just a minute. But if you're not fit to run for president, you're not fit to be president, right? And that's just the basic logic of it. And so my idea, now I don't think he'll do this because there's only been one president to resign in history, and it was in ignominy, however the fuck I'm saying it wrong there, but not
my
a good
namesake.
Right. That's right. Really. All right. Nixon was kind of base, actually. I won't go into that whole discussion, but
Nixon was an overall good president, if also deeply flawed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we agree there, but I don't see him resigning, right? But that would be the actual move, in my opinion, if you wanted to give Kamala a real boost, would be for Joe to actually resign the office of the presidency, make her the incumbent president running against Trump, and then she'll have a few months and she'll literally be president while she's running against Trump.
An incumbent.
Yes.
As an incumbent for a few months, but an incumbent nonetheless. That would give her an advantage. That would allow her to pick up a lot of that incumbency advantage. And so he just needs to do that. Do you think he doesn't like her on some deep level?
I do think that. I think that's part of it. Yeah. Of course you saw some of their exchanges during the campaign. I don't think they like each other, actually. And so, I don't think there's much love there between him and Kamala. I don't really know why he picked her, other than just to maybe, mobilize some minority voters, perhaps.
She was a bit of a box to check.
Yeah, because there's
a black female who's not. Who is that woman from Georgia?
Oh, that's not Stacey Abrams. Yeah. That's a little too much.
A bit much.
Yeah.
But she's a lawyer, and she is a centrist politician. That's the thing. She's not like a far left politician. She might have played up a little bit of identity politics there against Joe, where he's like, Joe, I was that girl in the bus that you didn't bus.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
To other neighborhoods to go to school. Yeah.
She had the biggest burn on him during the debates, actually. And had that slight surge. It didn't last long, of course. But I remember that campaign. Everybody kind of Biden out, and then COVID happened, and they basically just made the call to give it to Biden, right? And they it was a total fix, basically, to give him the nomination.
It was like South Carolina good old boy network gave him that big win, and then everyone was like just pulling out.
Yeah.
COVID happened. He was the man. Here we are. If you wanted to change horses in midstream, you just had to do it a year ago, when a lot of these liberals were calling for it.
Yeah.
Like Bill Maher types. There's New York Times. Ezra Klein was talking about this like 9 months ago or whatever. Like you just had to do it a while, because it's going to be chaotic. But is the Democratic Party willing to just have an open convention and allow the delegates to vote? I think the last time we had something like that was 1974. Or was it 1976?
Yes.
When Reagan was challenging Ford, and that was a real we don't know who the candidate's going to be type thing.
Yes. I've never lived through one. It would be amazing to see, actually.
It is, yeah. It's also kind of depressing that when you the kind of mediocrities and just general fuck faces who become delegates and are like party joiners determining the leader of the free world, there is something truly depressing about. I don't know if it's more or less depressing than like the people voting. Yeah. But yeah, they're just such goofballs, like when Trump's talking and they're like raising their hands up and praying and just like hanging on his it's just like, oh my God, you guys actually believe in this bullshit. But I mean, could they do that and then maybe allow Gavin? I mean, I don't know. They're in a horrible position. But this is the one thing that I would say, and this is a little bit conspiratorial, which is that, okay, now I agree that Trump is a kind of chaotic figure in American politics.
It was reported.
And that Trump inspires people who are it could be fairly called radicals, whether it's the alt-right back in the day, whether it's QAnon, whether it's these Project 2025 guys who want to ban abortions nationwide and et cetera, et cetera. Like there's something about Trump where he is a wrecking ball. But we've also seen Trump in office, and the world didn't fall apart. And, who is doing pushback, however so slight, against Israel? That is people who are ultimately Zionists, no doubt, but it's Joe Biden, Blinken, et cetera. They are Zionists, unquestionably, but they are also kind of pushing back here and there on Netanyahu. At one point, a senator called for Bibi Netanyahu to be, he needs to be changed.
Schumer. I mean,
Schumer did. So, yeah. So even Zionist Jews are willing to push back kind of. Now, again, is this enough? Is this my feelings towards Zionism and Israel? No, of course not. But there's pushback there. And then also within the left coalition, there is serious pushback. And this is what last fall was about in the elite colleges and these protests. And think about delegates, like the joiners of the Republican Party are maybe to the right of Trump in some ways, and they're kind of goofy, true believers. They have a pocket constitution, and all that jazz. The delegates in the convention, there might be some like convicted anti-Zionist in that convention. Among the left coalition, there are definitely people. So maybe the Democrats are kind of like, look, we might pick up the Senate in 2024. We actually improved in Congress in 2016. People forget that. We'll let Trump go to the White House. He won't really get anything done. And knowing Trump, maybe we kind of like his foreign policy. He's not going to do a humanitarian dock for Gaza. He's going to let, we all know, he's going to let, particularly if Kushner's back and all that kind of stuff, he's going to let Israel enact its will on the Palestinians. Who is more likely to accept a full annexation of Gaza? Donald Trump or Joe Biden and Blinken and company? And Kamala Harris, I'd put her in that boat because she's kind of a centrist lib, basically. Who is more likely to let Israel go all the way? So this is where I would question people, where they constantly think that like the deep state or the Jews or whatever are just, they hate Donald Trump. They can't imagine Donald Trump as president. He's an existential threat to them. He's really not. And you should open your mind to the possibility that they might see Trump as a fairly good thing. Like, we'll drop all the lawsuits. He'll become president. Israel will annex Gaza. He's not gonna
James Gartner sent $20 on Rumble.
I don't know, ban abortion nationwide or send every illegal immigrant home. He might do something approaching that, but he's not going to do it. Nothing that can't be reversed. And we settle the Israel question, the Gaza question, maybe even the West Bank question, with this Zionist stooge. And then, 2028, we got Gavin, we got, who else did they got? Not much, but we got people who can be president.
I actually think Gavin would be the strongest candidate against Trump because he's the most Trumpian type, right? I don't want to say slimy. That's not, but he's
a little bit greasy.
He's greasy. Greasy's the word. Greasy's the word. He's been a big state governor. Yeah, he's a total, complete prick. He's the most Trumpian guy on the left. And I actually think he could probably go toe to toe with Trump on a debate stage.
No question.
And so that's why, and I've said that for months and months, by the way. But I don't think they can get it. They can't get it to him, though. That's the thing. Can they actually get it to him? That's my.
Well, I mean, what you could do is you say, we're the Democrats, and that name means something. So we're going to have an open convention.
Stan sent $3 on Rumble.
And Biden, he's going to gracefully ride into the sunset. It's an open convention at the floor, and we'll see what happens. That would be, they would have to do that, because otherwise, like, overstepping Kamala as a black woman, I agree that would.
I mean, I just don't see how that could work. But an open convention, I mean, wouldn't she'd still have to be the favorite, right? Though, like, I mean, she's the sitting vice president. She's black woman. Like, they need black vote turnout. It's like skipping her over for a white guy, even though I think he's the best candidate out of the bunch to beat Trump. Like, can they actually do that? Now, there are leaks out of the White House, like they're leaking like a sieve all over the place. That Biden, of course, they denied this today, but they're saying their plans for him to step down, but not throw his support behind Kamala Harris, and to instead support an open convention, which I would just love to see from a poli-sci nerd standpoint.
Oh yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah,
I don't believe the leaks, because I think the leaks are strategic wish casting.
Yeah,
in the sense that you leak something that you want to happen, and then you almost create a fait accompli.
Right.
Basically, I don't fully buy the leaks.
I'm not.
I mean,
sure
look, are there people telling Joe, "You've got to fucking go, old man"?
Yes, I believe that.
Do you think the DNC would kill Joe?
You know what? It's funny because I
said
say
this
that back in the spring.
As a man who voted for him, I do not want this to happen.
No, I said in the spring. Like assassination attempts, I thought it would be Biden. I was like, if I was Biden, I'd have a food tester like Caesar used to have. You know what I mean? Like that's how I would be rolling right now. Especially now, it's like, dude, they want him gone. And I wouldn't put it past him. Now let me ask you some of these super chats that were kindly sent in. Groiper says the fake idea of racism has caused so much damage to this country, from allowing blacks to commit crime to throwing the border open for mass immigration. The RNC response is to say, we're not racist. What would be your rhetoric on this issue?
My rhetoric if I were a Republican?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, that's what he's asking.
So I think I would still be very contrarian. I think the immigration issue needs to be rethought totally. And I think it needs to go into a contrarian place for it to actually be meaningful. So I would say that illegal immigrants, yeah, there's some bad ones out there, and we're going to arrest them and send them back. We don't tolerate gangs, violence, it's crime, etc. But the vast majority of illegal immigrants want to work. They want to be your nanny, and they want to make you a burrito, and they want to work in agriculture or whatever. And we understand that, and we can deal with that and manage it. But we should stop demonizing illegal immigrants. Jose is okay.
Jose is okay.
I just came up with that on the spot.
There's a few bad hombres, but Jose is okay.
A few bad hombres, but Jose is okay. The people who truly threaten the American public are not the Jose's of the world. They're the Viveks of the world. And we need a total shutdown of H-1B visa applicants. We need to rethink immigration from these Asian and Indian countries completely altogether. we have, China, India, we're talking, 2.5 billion people or thereabouts. That means millions upon millions of people with IQs above 115 who could go to undergraduate college, who could become an accountant, who could become a lawyer, who could become a doctor, who could become a businessman, become a nurse, et cetera, et cetera. They have an unending source of those smart type people, and they're not really good Americans. Vivek Ramaswamy, that is, came over here, became a con artist, effectively, pumped and dumped some unworkable senility medicine, became a multimillionaire, and now is lying to you on Steve Bannon's War Room podcast. We don't need these people. We don't really like these people. We're not really terribly impressed with these people. If you're so great, then go do something in your country. But we do want our people to basically have some sort of chance, not even at like upward mobility, but just some chance to live the good life and become an accountant, become a nurse, maybe become a doctor or a businessman or a lawyer. But if you make American citizens compete with the Viveks of the world, then that's unfair. They are going to lose that competition, in fact, because you have tens of millions of young Americans trying to make it into a comfortable middle-class life, competing against hundreds of millions of Viveks and Lees, et cetera, around the world. And Jose, who might get drunk on occasion and is a little bit rough around the edges, but merely wants to make you a burrito, I don't think is the real enemy here. And we should stop demonizing Jose, and we should start demonizing Vivek. And maybe we could have a grand operation. There was a notorious now policy called Operation Wetback.
Yes.
In the Eisenhower. I propose Operation Dryback. And we basically will go contact illegal immigrants like Jose and say, do you want to be a citizen? All right, let's make a deal. All right, you don't have to learn English. Don't worry about that. But we're going to round up and deport millions upon millions of legal immigrants with IQs above 115. And you could be involved in this project, Operation Dryback. Jose, are you willing to go all the way? And that is actually, I know I'm being kind of contrarian and a little bit outlandish, but that is how you need to think. I just don't even want to hear about like illegal immigrants anymore. When Trump was talking, at one point I tuned out when he was talking about some like almost true crime sob story about some like rape and murder or whatever. I don't even want to hear about this anymore because that's just salacious, and the fact by the fact that it's salacious, it's kind of deceptive. Like I could tell you about some horrifying crime that occurred in this neighborhood and lead you to believe that it's some terrible place. No, that was actually a really bad thing that happened. That was really the exception that proved the rule. The thing threatening young people are high IQ legal immigrants. It's basically forcing them to compete with the world. And so whenever someone just starts talking about like the border and crime, look, fentanyl's bad. I totally get a lot of these things. I think we have a right to police this shit, and I get it. I totally get it. But on some point, I don't really want to hear it anymore because you're not facing the real fucking issue. And the real issue goes back to some of the things that Trump said even back in 2016, where it's like, Americans can be dreamers. You know, that was a kind of radical statement. And that's more radical than just calling a bunch of Mexican rapists, because they're not all rapists.
I live in Mexico, by the way. They're not. I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And very safe here. Not all of Mexico can say that, but
look, are a bunch of illegals kind of rough around the edges? Of course, but you've got to face the real challenge, and none of these people will own up to it. The challenge is your sons and daughters competing on a global scale with India and Asia to become accountants, nurses, businessmen, lawyers, etc. That is the threat. And if you're not talking about the real threat, then I don't really know what to say to you, because conservatives are just so goofy that like they don't want to face off against like an actual adversary. They want to like tell you a story about how this evil MS-13 gang member killed some young girl or whatever. But they don't want to face off with like real competition, because that almost seems like a little kind of mean or something, you know? Like, we love our model immigrants. They're so good that, you know, Asians are so great at math and they come here and they just want to do good and become part of the middle class or whatever. At some point, you've just got to say, fuck that shit.
But they're replacing the white middle class.
I'm against legal immigration. Like, I'm pro illegals. More illegal immigration, pro illegals. They're great, good people. All of them, most all of them are good people. Some might be bad. And it's really the legal immigration that is the replacement issue. And you've got to talk about that. And if you constantly lead with like MS-13, you're going to miss the big picture, which is your sons and daughters competing with the world, which is totally unfair and ridiculous. So if I had a speaking opportunity to speak the RNC, that's what I would stress.
And it's funny you mentioned accountant and nurse, because my grandmother was a nurse and my mom was an accountant, MBA, not the NBA. And, you know, I think if, you know, she got her degree in the 70s. You know, what if it was a different world back then, right? Like, what if she was competing against, and also they get, you know, benefits to get into college, right? They get priority over whites in a lot of cases, and you just wonder what, you know, life could have been a lot different for me. And, you know, I was provided a nice middle to upper middle class life through her hard work and my grandparents' hard work. And, you know, if they were working, you know, had to face the same types of same type of competition that white people, quite frankly, are facing now, what might that have looked like, right?
Yeah.
It could have been a totally different life. Now, I see Ada Wolf, he says, Kamala called Joe a rapist during her campaign and in debates. I don't remember that, but the left thought she would be popular and hip and could be a face for the administration. They realized how unpopular she was and hit her after. Yeah, she's basically been in hiding. That's another reason why I don't know. I don't think she's going to win it. If they replace Joe, I don't think Joe's going to win it either, really. But if I had to bet who would have a better chance, I would probably say Joe Biden. Like, maybe that sounds crazy to some people, but I don't know. That's kind of my view. Now, Epstein says, yes, it was reported yesterday that campaign officials said unambiguously that Biden would not endorse Kamala, which is like a major slap in the face.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like a complete... How do you not endorse your vice president? I mean, obviously, there's some heat there. Daniel Larson said, Spencer, what are your thoughts on the VP pick, and who would you have preferred, if any? And I saw Charles Johnson, I know you do some podcasts with him, putting out some interesting material about J.D. Vance, who seems like a complete moron,
totally
actually, with some of those texts.
J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I really despise him on many levels.
He's such a fraud too. Like he called Trump Hitler, and of course they're going to use all these clips in the campaign. But like,
right.
And he flip flopped because he saw which way the wind was blowing, and he knew what he had to do to get in certain positions, and he became a toady basically. And now he's the
then
vice
he
president.
does like a speed run of the alt-right or dissident right is probably more accurate. Of like, I'm a national conservative, paleo isolationist, but also I love Israel and want us to go to war with Iran. I mean, this guy is terrible. But I think I think this is my kind of insight on him. A lot of people have been attacking his wife, Usha. Now, for what it's worth, I almost like his wife more than I like him.
I do
like
too.
She seemed actually kind of nice and
more genuine. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't have any like hatred of her or something. But I don't you think that maybe the fact that he did marry her is kind of telling? Like he talks about the hillbillies, and that book Hillbilly Elegy is at the end of the day blaming the hillbillies for their problems.
Yes, that's right.
Like we don't have these problems in Utah. If a family has an income of $30,000 in Utah, the kid actually turns out good. But if you have a $30,000 income in the Appalachia or Southern Ohio, you've like been beaten and watched your mother OD on heroin or something. I mean, he blames them. He blames their culture.
That's the whole thesis of the book. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's this weird person who kind of like hates himself at the end of the day and adopts this identity that he ultimately despises. And so all of this, like, I'll never forget where I came from or whatever, that's he kind of wants, he might never forget, but he wants to forget where he came from. He's a striver and an outsider, much like his wife is. And I wonder to some degree whether his answer to the hillbillies is to replace them with high IQ immigrants. And I mean, I might not go as far and as dark as Charles has, but isn't it remarkable that he created a charity involving the opioid crisis that involved Sally Satel from the Sackler family, from the Sackler business empire? Like, isn't that a bit odd?
Ones who created it.
Yeah. It's like, what is he? And he's an accelerationist with tech. And there is no. I
will say this about the Sacklers, though. They do have a great exhibit at the Met Museum that they paid for with all those opioids. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I just want to interject there.
We're with it,
yeah.
The Metropolitan Museum of Art?
They imported this whole Greek temple, and like they have all this stuff. Yeah. A lot of people died for that, but it was pretty cool to see at the Met.
Wow. That's interesting. I wonder if there's. I'll have to go visit that. So is this, does he kind of come in and say like, hey y'all, you had a good run, but we're going to replace you with high IQ Indian immigrants who are good at doing AI and stuff? Like, is the whole thing about JD Vance like giving a sort of hillbilly gloss on to policies that are really terrible? They're most obvious in terms of foreign policy, where all these guys are he's an isolationist, he's a Buchananite because he bashes Ukraine. He's like, I don't care what happens in Ukraine, just it's no business to me. I care about my mama, what she thinks. Or he'll say that about Ukraine. The second we turn to the Middle East, he sounds exactly like a W era neocon. Exactly like them. We're back in 2006 talking about hitting Iran and hitting Iran hard. We're just back in the W era. So is he just giving a gloss basically to these Republican policies, which many of us find disgusting? Like, is he going to give a hillbilly gloss to why we need to bring in all these smart Indian nurses and doctors to help out the hillbillies and keep them alive? Is he just giving a hillbilly gloss to, this is why we need to fight on behalf of Israel against, Iran that threatens the world? Is he just, I don't know. Is there any there whatsoever with JD Vance? I don't think so.
I don't either. And I thought it was a terrible pick. I don't know why he picked him, because Ohio's locked down anyway. I think it was like a sop to the establishment. I think there was some big money behind it as well. A lot of big money players probably wanted him in that spot. They might have secured Trump some more funding behind the scenes.
Silicon Valley funding.
Yes, they wanted him bad, yeah.
And that the Harzoni, he's become kind of a Harzoni creature.
Yeah.
Also. And they obviously, surely Harzoni is connected to Jewish funding as well. So this is what it's about.
I think so too. Daniel Washington says, Spencer, I already asked that. Who would you prefer? Oh, second part of that. Who would you prefer if any? I mean, I'm sure you had some kind of preference.
Well, in terms of like realistic options.
Well, yeah, I mean, well,
I don't know.
Your fantasy pick and then realistic option.
Well, fantasy pick. I don't. I maybe picking a Democrat or something. That would have been interesting.
There were rumors maybe RFK Jr. That would have been a wild choice. There were rumors that might actually happen that day.
I'm not an RFK fan, but
I'm not
I
really
do
either,
think I do think picking some sort of Democrat would have been interesting, because it would have been Trump's liberation from the conservatives and Republicans. He's just like, listen, I work on behalf of America, like not you people. And so I'm doing my own thing. I'm creating an actual unity ticket. That would have been very interesting. I disagree with Tulsi on many things, but I do think that would have been an interesting pick.
Me too.
Kind of a warm woman that would have, I've got some issues with Tulsi, but I think that would have been kind of like made me think and been inspiring. I'm just not inspired by Vance at all. I've discovered that I hate him as much. I think I hate him more than Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis really triggered me.
Well, he ran the worst national campaign I think I may have ever seen. He did some real damage to himself.
I have never heard my
and made himself detestable on almost every level. But JD Vance, I almost see as like Pence part 2. I don't think he has Trump's back. Like it's an establishment pick. I just see it as a mistake on every level, except perhaps the funding option, right? And
funding from Silicon Valley, because he's never really practiced law, from what I can tell. He's been a venture capitalist guy. He's not that old. He's 39 years old. He's actually almost 7 years younger than I am.
Yes,
he's just a venture capitalist.
He's 1 year older than me. Yeah,
right. And he's, so he went to Yale Law School to get involved in these networks. He was a creature of Teal. He seems to have worked with Jeffrey Sachs now in cashing out on Rumble and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't have any, I don't know, who is he? You talk about assassination insurance. It's a kind of dark joke about your vice president.
Yes.
Like, was Pence sort of like, Pence was there to get the religious right, get the Midwest, and to kind of stabilize things, because you have a conservative movement creature in Pence, and he's not going to overshadow Trump. So I kind of get it, even though I don't like Pence. With Vance, it's outreach to Silicon Valley, and then you kind of throw in the Midwest stuff. Although remember, JD Vance underperformed Trump when he ran for Senate, and so I think you could make a better argument that he's disliked back in the Midwest, but I don't know. He's almost the opposite of assassination insurance, because
that's what I think. And he's
like,
so young too. It's almost a risky thing. And Trump's older. Like he could easily die in office. I don't
easily. And you have Vance, who's a creature of the Harzoni people. He's been a teal creature. He's now he's been associated with Saks and the Rumble deal. He got the job and immediately starts talking about bombing Iran.
I couldn't believe that.
He's gone from being like a liberal, the hillbilly whisperer for the liberal. He was the liberals made him. The liberals loved this goofy
Wall Street Journal, hillbilly elegy. What a author. Yeah.
Like, let's make a Netflix movie about the just like depressing, dumbass life of this person. Like, he made it out of there. He wasn't set aflame by Meemaw. He's now at Yale. It's like, I do not give a shit. You know? Why don't you tell me, like, let's find something redeemable in the hillbillies. This idea of like making it in the sense of just like escaping your people and your culture. I don't find this like great. It's like, I won't go into it, but so is he assassination? Is he assassination encouragement? Because
that's what
he's malleable. He's malleable. Like, he can be anything. You can just, he's this like chub ball golem, and you can make him say what you want. And Trump can make him say what you want. Because so JD Vance went on ABC's with This Week or something with Stephanopoulos, and he said, like, you know, I would have done what Pence didn't do. So he just was, you know, kissing Trump's boots, but he'll kiss other people's boots. And so you have this person who seems eager to bomb Iran, who's more of a kind of, at least personally speaking, more of a Zionist than Trump. Someone whose personal life kind of makes you question his commitment to immigration reform, even though he talks the talk. You just have this almost like perfect Manchurian candidate. And I don't know what to say. I worry about the whole thing. There's all this curious stuff. Sorry if I'm getting too Alex Jones here, but so there was a report in the New York Times by Maggie Haberman and Swan that Tucker Carlson told Trump that if he doesn't pick Vance, that he'll get assassinated. And I'm just gonna plug in real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
So there was this report that he would get assassinated if he didn't pick Vance. So if he picked Burgum or Rubio, he'd get assassinated. Now, when I first heard that, I was just like, what are you fucking talking about? They're going to kill you because of the dangers of
And they
Doug
almost
Burgum?
killed him already anyway, but yeah, go ahead.
Right. But then I kind of thought about it for a few seconds, and I was like, okay, I understand the logic here. So it's that the deep state is going to kill you because they want Burgum as president. And they fear Vance, so they would never kill you because Vance is so hardcore or whatever.
But he's not. Yeah, that's what
he's not. But then he told him that over the weekend, and then there was an assassination attempt on Trump, and within 48 hours, he's picked Vance. So I'm sorry. Look, this is kind of, X-Files or whatever, but what is going through Trump's mind? Did that when he said, like, I shouldn't even be here, and does he feel like maybe Crooks wasn't just some weird antisocial kid who wanted to kill someone important because he hated the world in his life? That's the most plausible explanation for Crooks. But I don't know. Was he activated in some way? Was that a message being sent to Trump? Just look at the kind of correlation of the sequence.
And there's no history almost on this guy at all either. Like, it's really weird.
He has encrypted accounts, but no social media. He's like the one Zoomer kid who has no social media presence. It's odd. The whole thing is very odd. But I don't know. I apologize if I'm kind of engaged in like pure speculation and conspiracy theory, but the thought has crossed my mind. And because I know who JD Vance is. I don't buy any of the bullshit. He is a malleable Gollum-like figure. He is a Manchurian candidate who will do whatever the fuck or he is willing to reinvent himself in order to do whatever needs to be done.
And he's done that
and
already.
Trump's a wild card. Trump's so narcissistic that it's all about him, So I don't know. These are just some thoughts. I can be criticized for kind of throwing the. I say this without firm evidence. I say this as sort of speculation, kind of feelings that there's something else going on behind this. Because why JD Vance? Why JD Vance?
It doesn't help the ticket at all. Like I don't understand
Anonymous
it.
sent $3. Why does Rupert Murdoch hate Vance so much?
And I'll go through some of these questions here. A comment first says one backpack or box full of core fentanyl could wipe out every man, woman, and child in the United States. A fence isn't going to fix the fentanyl problem, is what Ebb said there. Anonymous says, I've never heard my normie friends sound more positive about Trump since he walked down the escalator. Tells you all you need to know. Now, what do you think about that comment? And there's a couple other.
That the normies like Trump, so he's not going to be good. Yeah, I think that's fair. I assume that's what's being implied. Yeah. He's just going to suck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your like golf dad, work colleagues like, oh yeah, Trump's pretty great, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna suck.
Aho Anderson says Vance is the Yellowstone hick lib meme incarnated into a politician, and now he's one step away from the highest office in the land, less than a week off a near assassination of Trump. God help me, I might be riding with Biden. Is what Aho Anderson said there. I really hated the Vance pick. First, like I said, I don't see how it helps him electorally. It must be about money. It must be about Zionism. Like, I can't see any other reason for it.
Do you think Teal? I mean, after the Vance pick,
after
the Vance pick, Musk promised $45 million a month to a super PAC.
Yes,
and Vance is in that world now. Look,
well, he endorsed him after the assassination.
He endorsed him after the assassination. Yeah. But Musk is in the PayPal mafia, but I don't think we should assume that the PayPal mafia is monolithic. Like, I'm sure there are kind of different opinions and kind of agendas and so on. But is this what's happening? I think it's worth a question.
Anonymous says, why does Rupert Murdoch hate Vance so much?
Wow, I didn't know that.
But he's kind of fallen in line if you've been seeing the New York Post headlines recently, or front pages.
So what's the evidence for Murdoch hating Vance? I kind of like this.
I've heard that, but I don't know why. Like, I just let's see if I can find here. Let me see. Maybe I could find. I know he was lobbying for Burgum. I did see a report on that. Let me see if I can find a quick. Let's see. Vance's efforts to win over Trump. He won over Donald Trump Jr. Aggressive effort to overcome internal opposition from major Republican donors and Rupert Murdoch affiliated news outlets. It involved a campaign by Vance and his advisors to convince Trump that Vance could both raise money for his presidential run and forcefully defend him on TV. And we know Trump is a big TV guy. I don't actually know, but I'd heard that same thing. So I can't say, but I do know that there was opposition from him by Murdoch, but I don't actually know why.
Maybe it's all kind of recent, because Vance has. I mean, again, when I thought that Vance was going to get the pick was many months ago, when he full on. When he got the ABC, Stephanopoulos ended the show after he said this. Vance just basically said, I would have refused to confirm the votes in 2020, send it to the courts and so on. So he basically indicated, in a plausibly legal way, he indicated that he would have done the stop the steal stuff. And Trump no doubt saw that and really liked it. Because he's still obsessed about the 2020 election. I mean, that kind of came through a little bit last night.
Yeah, obsessed would be one way to put it. Yeah, but I don't really believe JD Vance would have done that, though. That's the thing. That's
fair enough, because it's all talk.
Yeah,
like JD, the guy looks slippery. I I imagine JD Vance would have acted like Pence, and he's going to look out for his own future and so on.
No,
I don't know.
It didn't work out well for Pence, though, long term.
Oh, God.
Jesus, talk about being a pariah. Now, let me ask you, of course, we've had you for about an hour. I won't keep you too much longer. But do you think Biden's out?
I'm going to make I'm going to predict that Biden stays in.
Really? Against all this, Obama's clearly lobbying against him. Pelosi, Schumer, openly, all these leaks, even from his own White House.
Biden is arrogant enough to stay in, A. B, surely someone will tell him, look, man, your leaving just makes it worse. You know, like, yeah, you do kind of suck. And like, seriously, man, you are way too old to be doing anything. But your leaving just makes things worse. So I don't want to hear from these advisors and consultants how the only way to win is to find a new candidate in August of 2024. That just does, you know, and I think this is my prediction. I think he stays in.
I think that is the one thing that it's his stubbornness, right? Like, they're not going to push me out, and it's only him. Like, the delegates, I believe they're obligated to vote for him, basically.
Instigator sent $5 on
and I'll read this out.
It doesn't bother you that Mexicans are exploiting.
They are legally bound to.
Yeah, they're legally bound to vote for him.
Are they going to be arrested or something if they don't vote for him? I don't think so. But
by party rules, they're bound.
It goes.
Yes. Now, of course, party rules can change, but now this is Instigator. He says, for Richard, says, it doesn't bother you that Mexicans are exploiting the American economy by sending their money back to Mexico. Those are called remittances, by the way. $1 in America is 8 in Mexico. They should be all kicked the fuck out, is what he said. And also the dollar is back up against the peso, which I keep very way up today, actually. For each dollar, you get 18 pesos. So basically, you know, it pays to get paid in dollars and spend in pesos. I'll just say, living in Mexico. And ever since the election, which I don't comment, I stay neutral on Mexican politics because I'm a guest here, but the peso has declined against the dollar because they're worried Obrador is going to basically rewrite the Constitution with his 1 month. He'll have a supermajority for 1 month before his handpicked successor comes in, and he's also built in a referendum where there's a 3 years into her term, there's a referendum that can possibly recall her, and he built that in. Yeah, I don't even know if you knew that. I didn't know that until about a month ago, and it's basically people have speculated it's insurance that she does, you know, what he tells her to do for at least those 3 years. But that's why the peso has declined. But what do you say to that comment?
Look, I get it, and it's not that there aren't serious issues with illegal immigration. It's just that framing really matters. And if you are simply focused on these issues that we've kind of dealt with for decades now, which is illegal immigration. You know, I grew up in Texas. I'm well aware of this. And you're not dealing with the real big issue of the future, then I don't want to hear it, because I do think that the demonization of illegals is a fundamental distraction from the real problem with replacement immigration and the future of the United States. And if you're just constantly talking about illegals, it's like a trap, basically. Because if you constantly talk about illegals, what your opponent is gonna respond to you is basically, well, you're right. You know, we need to get that under control. And here, let's bring in all these legal immigrants because they're law abiding. I mean, according to your own terms, this should be a good thing. And that's what always happens. So you've got to demonize the legal immigrants and start treating Jose as okay. I think that is.
But how do you do that?
To do.
Because always they did it the right way. And by the way, I did it the right way too. I'm a official residente temporal here in Mexico. I'm not here on a visa. You know, I went through the whole process, Mexican consulate. You know, I did it the right way.
You have a green card effect?
I have a green card here in Mexico. Well, they don't call it that, but yeah.
Well, I know.
Yeah. But residente temporal, and then actually, I'll explain this to you real quick.
Do you speak Spanish?
No. But I have this phone that does. But anyway, and I just bought a new one. It does live translation, actually, where I can talk to somebody AI? On the phone. Yeah, it's AI, so I can talk to somebody on the phone in English. It'll translate it into Spanish. Then it'll take their Spanish and speak to me in English.
That is incredible. Wow.
And so I just picked that up. So that should be a little handy. But so you get 1 year to start off with, and you get it renewed for 3 years. I'm on my 3-year renewal. And after that, you get permanent residency, and you don't have to show any more papers or anything like that. It's basically you just have to pay them more money. And then you have to stay 1 more year in Mexico. You don't have to stay. You can. There's no like set amount of time you have to stay in Mexico. By the way, you can leave at any time and it stays with you. But after you get the residente, permanente, whatever, you have another year you have to stay. So you have to stay in Mexico for 5 years. Then you can apply for citizenship. But you have to speak Spanish to be a Mexican citizen, and you have to take the test in Spanish. You have to know a little bit about Mexican history and stuff like that. So if I did want to become a citizen, I would have to learn Spanish, or perhaps pay somebody to take the test. Not that I would ever do anything like that.
Probably pretty easy to do. Just do a Pimsleur course or whatever.
Insulgator said $1.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say it would be impossible, probably to do.
No. It might be like it would take a decade to like become proficient in Japanese or something.
Yeah.
Spanish, it's an Indo-European language. You can learn it.
Yeah. I think that could be done. But how do you do what you're saying? By the way, Instigator says, I never mentioned illegals, Dick. He says, we have so many non-whites here taking advantage of the system we created with total disregard for our culture and country.
I get it. I get it. I'm simply making a rhetorical point. I'm reframing the issue in the way that it has to be framed if you want to accomplish anything. But I get what the guy's saying. It's,
but
fair enough.
But how do you do it? Like, because both parties have the same like talking points on the do it the right way and come through legally.
You've got to fundamentally shift people's worldview. You cannot. There's this false pragmatism I think that I've always rejected about how you need to like talk to conservatives and not offend them, and I just always reject that. Like, you need to shock the bourgeoisie. Like, you have to shock them out of their current mindset, which is leading them to destruction. And you're going to have to like turn the tables on them for those neurons to start like interacting in different ways. But if you're just saying what they already know because it's pleasing to them, you're never going to get them. So that's again, maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I do things.
And I'm looking at the Biden thing. 32 Democrats calling on Biden to step down. One from the Black Congressional Caucus, or Congressional Black Caucus, which is like his base of support, basically, in Congress. One from the Hispanic Caucus, whatever the fuck. John Tester, late Thursday, called for him to step down. Heinrich, senator from New Mexico, called for him to step down. Like, do you really think he can ride this out and just say, I don't give a fuck, and just roll with it anyway? If anybody can do it, I guess it's Biden, right? Like,
let's just ride with Biden. Yeah, I almost like him more. Just to say to the Obamas, to the Congressional Black Caucus, to the New York Times, just give them the old F you, and just get in the Corvette with the Ray-Bans. Just be like, fuck off!
With the ice cream cone too.
Right.
Man, I don't know. Like, I've never seen anything like this. There's never been anything like this, I don't think, in our political lifetimes. And
don't you think that I'm right? This is like the last election in some ways, because it's symbolic that we just have these geriatric people. I mean, look, Trump is not in a state of senility. He just kind of lies his ass off, basically, but he's not confused, you know. Although he has had some senior moments, I think we should
one or two, yeah,
yeah, where he's like, he thought that what was it? Nikki Haley was in charge of Congress during.
Yeah, he's had a couple
J6
of slips, but nothing like Biden.
Something. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But like he's obviously, like last night he had almost no moments where you're like, oh right, this guy's like 80 or something. He was good. He's just blustering, doing typical Trump bullshit, you know. But he is old, and we have just these like old guys trying to revive the 20th century. You know, Trump is trying to revive like Hulk Hogan and, you know, American hyper patriotism, and Joe Biden remembers the Cold War and thinks that if we just believe enough in unity that we can just, this can work out and we're going to be all fine. And there's no one on the bench. It just feels like we're at the end of something. Like this is late stage geriatric Soviet Union, like 1980s in the Soviet Union. I think that's where we are right now. I don't think this is the beginning of something. I think this is the end of something. And the fact that we have these old guys engaging in nostalgia running for president is telling. I think this might be the last election, in the sense that some sort of paradigm is going to have to shift after this.
Is there going to be another election after? You know, there's some people think.
What if Biden wins and the conservatives are just like, that's impossible. Everyone loves Trump and Biden's senile. How did this happen? It's all lies.
And just secede?
I don't know. Secede, crazy J6 stuff. I don't know. What if Trump wins and the liberals are like, we're not going to confirm these votes because you are a Nazi and you want to ban abortion across the world? And I mean, again, this goes against some of the things I said earlier, but I'm just saying, is this a possibility? Like, are we at this impasse where someone would just say no to someone? You have we think you're a fascist. You now have total immunity, according to the Supreme Court, to do whatever the fuck you want. Everyone around you wants to ban abortions and throw women back to the kitchen and, you know, kill Mexicans or whatever they're going to think. We're not allowing you to be president.
And there's been so many, I talked about this on the show, constitutional crises over the last year or two where they're trying to take him off the ballot, and, you know, these Supreme Court decisions. And these are signs of a fraying republic, if you know your Roman history, and stuff like that, trying to put ex-leaders into jail and stuff. Like, these are actual signs throughout history of a empire coming apart, a country coming apart, or a republic turning into an empire. That's a different story with Caesar. But like, these are real things of a constitution decaying. But go ahead.
Yeah, and like, conservatives are like, oh, Putin's actually kind of based, and he was fighting against biolabs in Ukraine, and we don't care about Ukraine. Like, the Cold War, we don't care about that. We don't even know about that. Like, you have conservatives undermining a foreign policy agenda coming from liberals. And then among the left, you have people, when Joe Biden's like, oh, I've always supported Israel, it's the greatest thing. You have people leftists being like, I'm an anti-Zionist. I want a one-state solution. Israel for everyone there, one democracy, including all Arabs, Muslims, and Jews in that country. And I kind of sort of support Hamas too. You know, you have people like that. I mean, that's not a total exaggeration. It's a minority view. There are people like that in the left coalition. So from both sides, we have this like large constituencies undermining the foreign policy objectives of the center. So is it so outrageous to suggest that like this just can't go on anymore?
No, I don't think it's outrageous at all. And like I said, I've been talking about there's been several key flashpoints where it's like these are big things, like trying to take Trump off the ballot in certain states. Like these are actual like signs of a fraying republic and signs of a constitution not being able to hold up. And then you have the Supreme Court completely dominated by one side. You know, which happened through, you know, McConnell's just sheer will, basically, right? Just said, well, we're not going to confirm him, fuck you. And, you know, it worked out, but also it caused, you know, half the country to say, fuck the Supreme Court now. And so I don't know, man.
Is that like half the country thinks the Supreme Court is just
illegitimate
up its own ass?
Yeah, and that's not good.
So they're no longer like, these people in black robes. They just love the Constitution. They're the most legitimate of legitimate. There's in the government. No, they don't think that.
Well,
they think they're a bunch
President
of
Biden
wankers.
said that. Other politicians have said that, right? Like these are bad signs if you favor the republic continuing. And I could easily see, you know, the Democrats control the Senate. I could easily see them saying they have to confirm the electors, right? I could easily see them not doing that. And then what happens next? I mean, right? Like,
well, I live in Montana, so I might have to, just for Hobbesian survival reasons, I might have to join like the red team. I hope they'll take me. Maybe I'll go to Mexico. I don't know.
Yeah, I won't have to worry about it too much here in the Yucatan.
Margaritas for
I don't know, man. Who do you think is going to win? Who's going to be president?
My sense for a long time is that Trump is going to win. I'll have to give myself a deadline of like August 1st,
like
just
official
to make
prediction.
a call.
Yeah.
But my gut, it's going to be close. Incumbency advantage. For many people, the economy is actually doing well. We should point out, like the stock market's up. Like there's grocery store inflation, all that stuff. For a ton of people, upper middle class white people, the economy's great. So that's good for Biden. I do feel like Trump is going to win. And if I had to predict now, I would say Trump. And I think the elite are okay with Trump as well, which is an interesting development. So that's my prediction at the moment. I'll give myself a deadline of August 1st where I've just got to be like, all right, this is my fucking prediction. You can hold me to it.
You think if he gets in, he's going to just self-pardon himself on all these cases? I mean, there is no limit to the power of the pardon.
You can't pardon in Atlanta, but
no, he can't do that.
Atlanta's already
kind of totally fucked. Yeah, that case is fucked anyway. Yeah, I guess he could just not go to Georgia, right? What could they do, right?
Right.
Just don't go to the state of Georgia.
Oh my God! Wow, I'm thinking Mexico. Actually, you're making it very attractive sounding. I want to learn Spanish. Like
Me too.
Well, I speak German pretty well, but I could have German and Spanish and just drink, just sip some tequila and some, Mexican. I like
Latinas
Mexican
love
beers,
white guys too. It's crazy how your sexual market value goes up.
Everyone loves white guys.
But it's crazy. Tinder is a little bit different here in Mexico than in the United States, I've noticed, for gringos.
Oh, wow. Your phone just blows up.
Literally, if I was to hop on there, it blows up. Yeah, it blows up. Well, also they think every gringo is like completely rich, like, super fucking wealthy. And, comparatively speaking, a lot of Mexicans, not downing them, I'm just saying like their average salary is like, a couple $100s a week or something like that. So comparatively speaking, I am more wealthy than most.
Right.
But they have a strong middle class here though in Mexico. It's not like everybody's super poor, but the poor are really poor, right? Being poor in Mexico is not like being poor in the United States. It's a different type of poverty. I was talking to a Mexican about this, and I actually went to Cuba too, which is even that was a couple years ago. I went to Cuba, which is even There's a difference between being poor.
So
in
you're
Mexico
talking
and
about
being
like
poor in
dirt
Cuba.
poor, like
You're poor.
you're collecting rainwater and eating from the trash and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have one of the ways AMLO got so popular is he started giving people a lot of handouts, basically.
Q_Jassel
old
sent
trick,
$1 on Rumble.
one of the oldest tricks
Richard
in the
is ready
book.
to get tax-free.
Richard is ready to get tax-free, is what Huge Asshole in the chat said. They're using one of my catchphrases. But, yeah, well, I speculated that, Trump said he wants to make tips tax-free. And I speculated that super chats are actually tips that you get during the show. So
tax-free, yeah.
So if he were to make tips tax-free, then, I mean, in my opinion,
just don't report anything. Yeah.
Aren't they tips though? Like, do you agree with that?
Yeah, they're definitely tips. Yeah, I see. You're giving them the product, and then they're under their free will giving you more money. That's like the definition of a tip.
Definition of a tip. That's what was my opinion too. And I was like, wow, okay, this is something I can really get on board with because you just made I don't know, like 90% of my income tax free. Now memberships and stuff like that probably wouldn't count, but I think a live super chat is a definite tip. Now let me get you out of here with this. You've been very generous with your time, but let me ask you, what's the one policy thing, or how about this? What's the one, a double part question. I'll make it two-part. First off, a super chat just came in, and I'll read this first.
$3 on Rumble. I feel like this shift that we sense coming is that AI is going to expose just how backwards we do things. That overnight, everyone is going to give in and just accept whatever.
He said, I feel like this shift that we sense coming is that AI is going to expose just how backwards we do things. That overnight, everyone is going to give in and just accept whatever, is what Ep said there. Thoughts on that before I get
AI is a big topic. Yeah. I do think that AI is a threat to civilization and existence in the sense that it allows you not to think, it allows you not to make culture, it allows you not to have human interaction. I mean, why teach a kid to write a 5-paragraph essay and have a thesis, an argument, some justification and color, and then a conclusion? Why teach a kid to do that at this point when you can just plausibly say, well, just put it into a fucking chatbot? And I think that, or why learn to paint when AI art can create, 12
why
different
learn Spanish
options
when my phone can just tell?
Exactly. Like our thinking is outside of our bodies, and that is extremely dangerous. But I mean, we might have to go on for an hour on that, so we might want to table
next time we'll table that. But the two-part question, first off, maybe that's one of the answers you're going to give, but first off, what is the topic you would be talking about that nobody else is talking about out of all the major candidates or parties or political figures that you would be hammering on and in a public way if you had a public national forum? And then what is the one thing besides that, it could be the same answer, right? That we should be on the lookout for in the future?
The dangers of high IQ immigrants, of high skilled model minorities. They are the danger to our way of life.
So that's what you would be talking about.
Yes. What's on my radar? I think we're probably headed for a war. I think I do think we're headed for a global conflict, and I think the Middle East is setting that off. And the fact that J.D. Vance is already kind of prepping people about Iran,
literally his first comments were basically was McCain bomb Iran again, and I'm just like, what in the fuck has Trump done?
2000s era McCain,
Well, it's hard to disagree with you. I wish I could because I'm totally against that, obviously. Anybody with a brain would be. Well, maybe not anybody. There are some people.
They've got brains. They want to do
they
it.
Have brains.
They just care about things that we don't care about. Yeah.
That's right. But thank you for your time today, man. It's been a while since we talked. I always enjoy talking to you. Always a high IQ interview when we have you on here, and we always cover a bunch of different topics. Tell them where to find you, promote your stuff.
Well, it's Alexandria. You can find me on Twitter, Richard B. Spencer, and Alexandria on Substack. It's actually still on URL REAX Substack, but you just Google my name, Alexandria, you'll find it. And I do like 2 shows a week. We talk for many hours on stuff, and then it's actually kind of 3 because we do a little kind of university course where we'll read books together. I'll give a lecture, and then we'll have a discussion for an hour every Sunday. So
Adele Wolf sent
most
$2
Sundays,
on
let's
Rumble.
put that. Sometimes
Great
I take
interview,
a
Ralph.
break. But
Thanks to Richard
so
for
yeah, if
coming
you're
on.
interested in that,
Very
then
classy
please
performance
join us,
from
and
you
I would
both.
appreciate it. It's only $9 a month, and that's it. There's no more, no super chats, just $9. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Also, I'll ask these two just real quick. I know that was the end, but a couple of super chats came in and says, how do you think the war with Iran pans out? That might be a short answer, I guess, there to that question. How would that pan out?
I don't know. I don't know how it can pan out. It's over the horizon. I can't foresee it. But like, we have conflict that's being spurred on by October 7th with Lebanon and other places in the Middle East. I mean, Bibi is escalating. He's already attacked in Iran. What is it? An embassy a couple of months ago in Iran. Sent some drones over.
He violated the Geneva and the Vienna conventions on the same day. I think that was a record. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's there, and he's been talking about Iran for 20 years.
Yes.
I mean, demanding that America do something. So this is not. How is this going to pan out? I don't exactly know.
That's why those JD Vance texts just blew my mind. He's like, Bibi doesn't want to go into Iran. I'm like, how dumb is it? Is this guy really believe that?
That was from Chuck Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, is this guy that he's just a moron then? If that's what he really thinks, or he's just lying his ass off. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like,
he's been groomed by Harzoni and national conservatism. All that shit that came in post-Trump, like from the Claremont Institute, from NatCon, from all of these weird influence, it's all fucking tainted bullshit. It is all like people wearing skin suits pretending to be, authentic commentators and pushing an agenda that we know very well. It's just, none of them should be trusted.
I couldn't agree more. Also, final super chat says, great interview, Ralph. Thank you. And then he said, thanks to Richard for coming on. Very classy performance from you both. Class is truly permanent, is what Ada Wolf said there. Yeah, I agree with that. And thank you, Richard. Yeah, man, I really love having you on.
All right.
Have a good one,
I'm glad to be back.
Yeah.
And adios.
Adios. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Richard Spencer.
Thank you for watching this clip. This is the CAC of Remember to like and subscribe.